Massa. Massa was underwhelming this season. Straight up. Atlantis and Atlanta in general was underwhelming. I think I've said that in every tier list and every video about Atlanta so far. I think he still had a lot of moments though. Definitely had a lot of moments. Maybe, yeah, probably have to put him B. May end up maybe moving him down to C. Now on to Halo. I'm not even gonna. Yep, very underwhelming from Halo. Did not really perform that well at all. On Brig, on Lucio was probably his best hero, but still wasn't even that good. He was just not good this season at all. Poor positioning all the time. His amp usage when he played Lucio was still poor. I had a lot of high expectations for Halo after words were said from him from the shock as a ringer for playoffs in Season 2 or Grand Finals in general. I had a lot of high hopes for him coming into Boston Uprising. Did not perform well at all. His main sport play was just bad. It was just straight up bad. If you watched Overwatch League, you just know. Now on to Paintbrush. When he first got signed, he was actually pretty solid. After like the first 2 or 3 weeks, his play went down a decent amount. And I am going to put him C. If this was before his play got down, he would be B. And I had that last time in my last tier list when I did this. But his play went down so much. It's sad because I think he has potential, but Dallas Fuel just went downhill after they signed him, unfortunately. There's a lot to it. I mean, his Lucio, when he got to play it, we didn't really see him play Lucio a lot. It was decent. His Brig was actually not that bad at the start, but like I said, his play went down a lot after games happened. I think it was after Vancouver, and also after Decay got released. His play went down a lot. His Brig was clean, though. He always booped the ulting Genji away majority of the time. His shield bashes were good. He's always with Crimzo at a decent amount. Just his play went down. Chris. Unfortunately, he got released, but Chris performed well this season. On Brig, on Lucio. Really good performances from Chris all around. You can see how important he was playing throughout the season. I think Chris was fine this season, actually. At the start, I was worried for him. I put him like in the middle, but throughout the season has gone on. He really grew with the Florida Mayhem and was one of the better main sports. But I think he really only can work on the Florida Mayhem, I feel like. Houston Outlaws Jexay. Jexay's A or B. I think he was definitely a good spot on the Houston Outlaws with his Lucio play. Sometimes his Brig play. Definitely changed the fights for Houston Outlaws a lot, actually. It's weird to say that about a main support, but he did pretty good on the Houston Outlaws for what he had. Repel was probably not the best support duo for him. At the start, I probably would have put Jexay A, but he ended up becoming more of like a solid main support throughout the league, but still was a good spot in the Houston Outlaws, I feel like. We have Big Goose. I was not impressed at all with Big Goose this season. I'm going to be straight up with you. I really don't think he was that impressive this season. He's B or C, absolutely. He's not higher, he's not lower. He's B or C. Yeah, I think that may be the case here. I think Jexay was just better. Yeah, I think it's going to be it. I think Big Goose is just underwhelming this season. Didn't really perform that well on Brig. Obviously, Mirror came in with Brig. His Lucio had moments when he came in and played. But that's about it with Big Goose, honestly. I mean, he still was probably a decent like caller in game, but that's it. Rain was solid this season. Absolutely solid on Lucio, Brig. Very underrated, I feel like. No one really talks about him, except for Sideshow at the start of the season. He was actually pretty good, and Sideshow talked about him a lot at the start, and that's like the only person really still talk about Rain. Rain's been solid all season long, very underrated, like I said. His Lucio, his Brig, always at the right spot at the right time with Ellie Valiant. Also, another definition of a solid main sport, just like McGravy and off tank. McGravy's a solid off tank, kind of like a definition, it feels like. FD God, he's definitely a top tier one, A or S. I think FD God's very aggressive, fits the Paris Eternal playstyle. Occasional Brig play, his Lucio play, I think we all know him for his Lucio. He gets away with a lot of stuff, surprisingly, even when he goes against some top teams. I think A. 2. Opinions still stand, but he's definitely up here. I think it depends on someone's opinions, I guess, for S and A. Depends on what they see. Who do we have next? Funny Astro. Here's our first S tier. Funny Astro was clean all season long. You obviously in Grand Finals probably not so much, but his when he learned his Brig, he got better. His Mercy was always clean. He's a battle Mercy. We still saw that in Grand Finals and playoffs. His Lucio's always been great. Even in contenders, he was always one of the best main supports, next best main support. And it sucks that Atlanta got rid of him. I knew as soon as they got rid of Funny Astro, it was going to suck for Atlanta. And I wish they just kept him and not on a two-way. Astro could have been a Boston main support. Yeah, he could have. A lot of you in chat, you may not know about that. But Funny Astro could have been on Boston Uprising in Season 2. Moth. Just with every other Shock player, look at the stats. Top healing, One thing no one talks about with Moth is his positioning is insanely good. Also, some of the wall rides he does is actually pretty difficult, and he does it really well. Moth does, and consistently well. Was probably something you never hear about with wall riding. Moth also does like the hardest wall riding spots and does them really well. Good comms, that's public out there. Moth's a great Lucio, great Brig, and Mercy. He's insanely good and can sometimes flex on the Ana if needed, but we never really seen that came out from him this season and two. Moth is insanely good at almost every main sport in the league, and just stats wise as well. Now we have Karkar. He's down here, absolutely. He's better than Halo by a decent amount, but I think if we're gonna put someone in D tier, it's gonna be Karkar. Clearly better than Halo. Yeah, clearly better than Halo. Just to probably just put someone in D tier, it's gonna be Karkar. I mean, he just not that much really to say about it. He had a better Lucio or Brig, I should say, than Halo. Down there for sure, but I think if he went to a different team, maybe we could see better performances come out from Karkar. Now we have Arc. Arc had a rough season. I don't think Arc is as good as Jexay and Rain this season. I think he's C. I think he's good in C. He had a lot of inconsistent performances this season. A lot of them on Lucio and Mercy, and a lot on Brig as well. He was kind of like learning Brig, it felt like, as we were watching, but it's some. But I think Arc will always have potential on a certain team. What team will that be? I don't know. But it all depends on what happens next season for the Justice, and also if he stays. Now we have Cruz. Cruz is down here, CRD. I say this everywhere. I said it on the CA Esports, CA Overwatch Esports podcast. This was probably his best year. Cruz's best year, but by not by a lot, to be honest. I mean, it was like the same performances, but he didn't really feed as much compared to when he was on Paris. But he's also not. I would not say he's not as good as Paintbrush. That's what I'm gonna say. He's not as good as Big Goose, so that may make him go to D. I would rather take Paintbrush over Cruz by a lot, and I think Paintbrush is just a huge upgrade over Cruz if they ended up signing Paintbrush and Strata Defiant. Cruz calmed down his feeding though this season, I would say. Spark for IDK. I would say he's still pretty good when he did play. Obviously he stopped. I want to say B because he still brought those good performances. Solid performances on Lucio, occasionally on Brig as well. I want to say B. I think he's better than Arc than Big Goose as well this season. He's a solid main sport. Now we have Sanguinar. Came out of nowhere. Definition of a rookie, it feels like. But then again, he was like on the Gen G's Academy of an Academy team. Came out of nowhere and ended up being one of the better main sports in the league, actually. He's definitely not C. He's like B and up. He's B or up when it comes to Sanguinar. I want to put him B because I don't think he's as good as like FD God or Chris. I think he's on the same level as like Rain and Jexay, I feel like. He brings a good playstyle to Spitfire that he could do. What team can he go to next season if he does? Probably the Gladiators, because I think he'll actually do a decent amount there with his main sport play. I don't know what else he does behind the scenes, if he's a good shot caller or not. Eviltaw. I want to put Eviltaw C, to be honest. I think I'm going to put Eviltaw C. He had actually some solid performances of main sport on the Chengo Hunters, but his Mercy's probably his best hero. His Brig's alright. His Lucio's alright as well. But I would not say he's as good as the main sports above him. I could probably see an argument for it, to be honest, with Eviltaw, but I think we'll put it there. Chara. Chara at the beginning of the season, I probably would have put him A, but I don't know about that now. B, I think I may want to put him B or C for Chara. This is going to be an interesting one, because he was good at the start, and he kind of just fell off. I wish he kept those high performances he brought, though. Liege gone. Crazy. But man, his grand finals were just not good. He got focused a lot, what made him look bad. Yeah, I think he is an S tier because all season long he performed good. Obviously, finals was just rough for Shanghai in general. I think Liege Gon's still an S tier though. Very aggressive on Lucio. That fits Shanghai Dragon's playstyle, so that's good. And good on Brig as well. Animo. This wasn't a good season for New York in general. I underperformed this season. Yeah, he underperformed this season. He started to underperform last season as well, kind of last second. I think Animo did not really perform this season, to be honest. I wish he did. He always has potential, but like he always dies a lot. If you look at stats. Toby, I think Toby is an A. All season long, I think he's been insanely good for the Seoul Dynasty. and performed well even in playoffs and finals. Absolutely. I don't think he's S tier because there's like it was rough at the start, but like after that rough start, he ended up being consistent so much. Good caller in game. But Toby's definitely an A. I don't think he's S just yet, but if this was all based off of like finals and playoffs, he probably would be S. All around, this was a great year for Toby. Performed really well in the Mercy when he played Lucio as well and Brig. Toby's definitely an A tier. He can definitely be S as well. Now we have Mika. I want to put Mika C too. He occasionally had good performances on Brig. I remember a lot of good ones on Route 66, if I remember. But I don't think he's as good as IDK, and I think a lot of people knew that in general. But he did a good job as a sub. I feel like coming in for IDK with the issues and stuff IDK had to deal with. Mika performed pretty decent, coming into playing the main support role with Brig, and that's really all he had to play for the time he came in was just Brig. So I think he is high C though. I feel like that's actually a pretty decent list. S is obvious. A is obvious. I feel like Chris, FD God, and Toby are all A. I wish Chara stayed in A, but he really went downhill a lot. Jex A, I wish he stayed A, but also just he played well throughout the season though. Reigns solid, IDK solid, Singwinar solid, Animo solid as well. Paintbrush was solid at the start, but he went down. Big Goose just underwhelming this season. Arc was inconsistent this season. Evil Talk is alright. Masa, he's up and down a lot this season. Mika played decent Brig. Cruz, what I need to say about him. Cruz had a decent year. just really underwhelmed this season as well. I thought he was going to be good coming in the Vancouver Titans. Was not the case. Halo, I think people can argue Halo's the worst player in the Overwatch League this season, but I think that's all. Honestly, I think that's all of an opinion thing, to be honest. I think that's the list, chat.